Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 1st, 2023 State Board of Education meeting. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Extend our welcome to all board members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and Twitter followers. And remember, you can follow the North Carolina State Board of Education on Twitter at EDStateBoard_NC. And remind our audience and those listening that this body meets monthly with its official meeting scheduled for the first Thursday of the month. Discussion of agenda items were held yesterday prior to the official meeting day. And I remind our on-site visitors and online listeners that you can follow our meeting online by going to SBE meetings at www.ncpublicschools.org. Board members, you're reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. We're delighted.
If I may, I would like to recuse myself on BSOP number 6, please. I'd like to recuse on the vote on that one.
Yes, let the record reflect that Mr. Keenan has recused himself from BSOP 6. This time, delighted to welcome any of our local superintendents that might be in the audience. Could you please stand so we can recognize you? I guess they're all busy in their local districts educating our children. So we appreciate you nonetheless. We're also delighted to have from the North Carolina School Boards Association, Ms. Nancy Black. Ms. Black, could you stand and we could recognize you? Another one of our valuable partners in educating our students across North Carolina. This time I'd call on Ms. Amy White for a special item.
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
White.
So in honor of Memorial Day, and because of my great love for this country and for this state, before Ms. Kamnitz says the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to offer this salute to our country.
Should we all stand? Yes.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us pledge allegiance to this land that's free. Let us all be grateful for this land so fair, as we lift our voices in this solemn prayer. God, please bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie to the ocean white with foam, God, please bless America, my home, sweet home. Ms. Kamnitz. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please join me in thanking Ms. White for that? Thank you so much. Great way to start a meeting. That will be tough to beat, but we've got some recognitions that are equally as impressive. And in particular, this is the time of year when we bid farewell to some very important partners in this work of educating our students across North Carolina, and that's the State Board of Education Advisors. They're a unique group of education professionals dedicated to our students who are willing and courageous to speak their minds, even if we might not agree with them. But more often than not, they give us insight that we need to hear and we need to know. And so we're grateful to all of our principal, teachers, superintendent, and Board of Education advisors. At this time, I'd like to begin our recognition by calling on to come forward the 2021 Burroughs Welcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Ms. Eugenia Floyd. Ms. Floyd, would you come forward? Would you like to make some remarks?
Well, you go get it. You go get it.
Okay.
Would you rather make it there?
That's whatever you prefer. I'll do what you say, Dr. Chairman Davis, excuse me. I'm gonna follow
I'm
directions.
taking advice from you.
Point of order.
We learned something.
Thank you, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Truitt, and members of the State Board of Education, as well as all of the incredible staff at the Department of Public Instruction. From the beginning of this journey, I have been saying that this work of education, you can either choose to be a bridge or a barrier on any given day and in any given moment. But being a bridge requires constant conversation, reflection, and consideration. And as a classroom teacher who makes a million decisions every day, one of the questions that always come to my mind are, who am I serving? Who am I missing? And what are the unintended consequences? These same questions have to be answered in every level of education, including in this room, because history has their eyes on all of you. And because it is our job to do everything, all of this work for children. And in the era that we live in, it's also recorded. So I want to thank each of you for listening, not only to my voice, but to the voices of the 2021 Teachers of the Year team and the many teachers in every region across this state that we've created networks with. Please know that we may be leaving this table today, but it's up to all of you, from the board table to within the department, on whether or not we leave the conversation, on how we can collaborate together and make education everything that it can be for the 1.5 million students in North Carolina public schools. So thank you all. I'd also like to thank my fellow advisors, because I truly believe like the best professional development that I've ever had in my life came from the teachers down the hallway. And in this case, it came from the teachers and principals that I sit beside. So thank you so much to Ms. Carper. Thank you so much to Dr. Green. I'd also like to thank Maureen Stover and Keisha Clemens, who were here last year with me, as well as my 2021 North Carolina Principal of the Year, Dr. Elena Ashburn. This journey has been amazing, and I'm so glad that I didn't have to sit at this table alone. And lastly, I want to definitely publicly say on the record that there's no one else that fought harder for my education and to make sure that the highest expectations were had of me from my teachers and principals than that of my mother. She reminded teachers and principals that engage with me all the time that no matter my zip code or how much money she made as a single parent, that I deserve the absolute best that they could give me. And I'm grateful for every prayer that she prayed for me, as well as every phone call she has taken in the last 2 years, whether it's good, bad, sad, or just complete exhaustion. She has always been a rock star. And my work and drive for public education comes from that woman who found a problem in my school system, became the bus driver, then the lead custodian, then worked at the registration office for the district, and retired in 2016 in the technology department. We love public education, and we know that it's our gateway to liberation. So thank you so much to my mom. Please wave, Mama. I see you back there. Wave. She in the room, y'all. And Chair Davis said you got to come forward, too. Chair Davis wants you to come up here. We're going to do what the chair said. But yes, she retired from the same school system that I come from, the Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools. And because of her, I was their first regional teacher of the year and their very first North Carolina teacher of the year. So I'm so grateful to this woman that made it all happen for me. So I just want to say thank you all for everything, and thank you for your ears, and I look forward to continuing the work together. That's all. They have the Kiki moment. It's a whole plaque.
Hey, Gina.
She's awesome.
I didn't get a chance.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, you're
Thank you. Mom, that's James Ford right there.
It's that good-looking chick. Yeah, really saying.
Needs no introduction.
And our next recognition is the 2021 Wells Fargo North Carolina Principal of the Year, Dr. Elena Ashburn. Dr. Ashburn. Yes.
Good morning. So I knew that I would have a challenge going after Miss Floyd, but I did not know Miss White was going to sing, and so wow, I'm set up not to do either of those amazing things, but just want to thank you for how beautiful that was. To you too, Miss Floyd. I want to actually introduce my family who's here. So in the back, I've got Matt, who's holding Cece, Reeves, Lucy, and Philip somewhere. There, you can't see Philip. Anywhere we go, we roll deep. There's 6 of us, so just like the Ford family, right? We take up space wherever we go, 4 kids. So yesterday, Miss Floyd said, I wonder if there's ever been a principal of the year who had a baby while she was doing her advisor term. I said, I bet not, and laughed about that. But then I also pointed out, in an industry where the majority of our teachers are women are underrepresented in the high school, comprehensive high school principalship, where I recently served, and in the superintendency. And so, and in particular, when you think about mothers with young children, they are vastly underrepresented. So, as we know, representation matters. So I always take the opportunity to talk about motherhood and the complexities of leading while serving as a mother. So thank you for indulging me in the process of having a baby during my tenure. So this has been an incredible opportunity to learn, and like most parents do, right, I have learned through observing you all. So I wanted to share a couple things that I have learned from you all. The first is no one has any sense of how much dedication you all devote to this service. You all are servants in the fullest right. You spend hours and hours and hours doing this work, and I'm so grateful that there are people like you who give so much of their time to dedicate to public service, public education. You all truly value educator voice. So when I became an advisor on the board, my friends are like, do they actually care what you think? And I'm like, no, they actually care what we think, right? They encourage us to speak up. So I also want to share with you how much I have valued that you truly value educator voice, and that is a lesson that I will continue to have in my job. Thirdly, I've seen you all ask the tough questions, and more importantly, when you have a policy or a decision in front of you, You ask who benefits from this policy and decision, and who doesn't benefit from this policy and decision. Those are the tough questions we must ask to ensure equitable outcomes for children. I've also seen firsthand diplomacy, collaboration, when you all do not agree about a subject. And that has been one of the greatest lessons that I've seen from you all, is the ability to disagree, then come together and make a decision. We need much more of that in our community. So thank you for being an example of that diplomacy. And finally, I've learned that every good meeting ends with BizOp. I am such a BizOp fan. I mean, that's So I leave here just with a challenge. When during my year as principal of the year, I visited over 30 school systems, and the challenges were real, but I'll tell you what was more encouraging was the courage that I saw in so many school systems. And so the challenge I give to all of us together is that we have that same courage to be bold and innovative, to ensure that we do what is written on the wall, especially for our most vulnerable children. Thank you for all you've done for me. To the advisors, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Yeah, 3 times.
The baby lost a shoe from the parking garage.
That's the worst thing that happened. It's a good day. Dr. Ashford, we're just glad that you are sending us so many future North Carolina public schools.
I have done my part.
And Matt's helped out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
That's our Miss Truitt's daughter.
Come on, lovely.
One last time.
Dr. Ashford.
We've got a great team.
Right.
I'll second that.
She wants to know who's the boss. Thank you.
You know, I mentioned our importance of our local superintendents earlier in the meeting, and there's just no way to fully thank those leaders on the front lines in our district every day. They are right in the middle of everything that's going on for our students, and they make the difference in picking the right principals, who hire the right teachers, who support both of them, and who also deal with us annoying parents from time to time, who fully commit our children to the public education in North Carolina. And one who's represented local superintendents so well and given us such great advice over the last couple of years has been the 2022 Superintendent of the Year Advisor, Dr. Valerie Bridges. Dr. Bridges, would you come forward?
I didn't bring anyone with me. I took a red eye last night. My husband picked me up from the hotel, but from the airport, took me to the hotel. I slept for 30 minutes. Looked pretty good for 30 minutes. And then he took my grandson to school. So you all tell him that this was a wonderful conversation that I had. So I want to start off by saying good morning to Board Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, State Board members, Superintendent Truitt, DPI staff. They are always here and always at attention. I want to say a special thank you, and I'm going to make these two gentlemen stand up, to Dr. Derek Jordan and Dr. Jerry Oates, my fellow superintendents. They made my journey enjoyable and they lifted my load, and I certainly appreciate you all. It's always comfortable when I look back and I look at their faces, and they have some of the same looks I have. but we made it, right? So thank you both for being here. And then my fellow State Board of Ed advisors, we go out, we get something to eat, we have a lemonade to drink, and we enjoy each other from time to time. So glad to see you. I stand before you this morning in the spirit of thankfulness, humility, and a sprinkle of grace and mercy. I've been an advisor on the State Board for a full year, July 2022 through June 2023. It's been an honor to be asked to participate on such an auspicious board. This board has an arduous task and responsibility to help decide the curriculum, develop blueprints and pathways based on your knowledge, your decisions, your questions, and ultimately the majority votes from the board. I appreciate the democratic process, the thoughtfulness that has gone into the decisions, and I just respectfully suggest that in a space, that we find a space in which the voices of more superintendents,
what this shows is
more
when
principals,
market crashes,
more
we
teachers,
don't crash as
and
much.
leaders can be held in larger numbers. Maybe there's a room for a formalized process to hear additional voices, and there might be times in which we're listening, we're debating, we're deliberating. I think that's a good process. The process matters less, but the frequency and the quantity of voices, including more, I think will add to our process. I want to take just a small bit of time today to say thank you to my school district, Edgecombe County Public School. We're located in Edgecombe, North Carolina, Edgecombe County, about 60 miles east of Raleigh. I've been a part of the school system for 11 years. 6 of those years, I've been the super proud superintendent of Edgecombe, and I'm extremely proud of the hard work and the dedication that our teachers, principals, and other staff members have exhibited throughout the years. We pride ourselves on being the little school system that keeps surprising people. We're innovative, we're scrappy, we're ambidextrous, and we're determined to create conditions that support student learning and human development. I've been fortunate to be a part of some tremendous, uplifting, progressive work throughout my career. My mantra and belief has always been whatever it takes for student success. Success is not just a test score. There are many measures of student success. And as a wife of one, mother of 2, and grandmother of 1, success looks different for each individual human. Are there some fundamental measures of success? Absolutely. Might I try to cover each one of those during my chat this morning? Absolutely not. What I will say is that academic success is important. We want success for our children, both biological and our babies at school. We know that the knowledge of content and knowing how is important and increases their likelihood of a good life. And we know what a good life is. The ability to take care of yourself, have choices, options, opportunities, and knowing when to start over when things aren't going well. I think that we would also agree that successful people are happy. And if you aren't happy, I posit that you might look successful, but you are not. And so some days it's hard to be happy, but when we take a moment and we think about where we are and where we could be, and what position we could be in, it puts us in a space of gratitude and perspective. We find things and people and activities to assist with a happy state of being. Is there an ebb and flow to happiness? You're darn tootin'. No one stays in a perpetual state of happiness, but being able to call up your happy self is important and makes a successful human. I'll stop with this final point regarding success. Although we know there are several others. The sense of work in progress, and it's not finished until I'm done. Believing that every day we get to work towards being a little bit better. I try to work on 1% better every day, knowing that if I mess up, I have a setback, that tomorrow will come and I get an opportunity to make a gallant effort to get it right. It's kind of like golf. I'm not ready for the PGA, but each time I play, I get a little better at some parts of the game. In golf, you have a front nine and you have a back nine. So when you're on that front nine, you're getting warmed up, you're learning the grooves of the course, you're figuring out how you're gonna swing, you wanna hit them straight, you wanna hit them long. I have little talks with myself when I'm on the golf course, and my talks go something like this. Now Valerie, come on. That ball is sitting on the tee. How can you not connect with the ball? I know you did not just put that pink golf ball in the water. You gotta be kidding me. What's wrong with you, girl? So those are the talks I have with myself. And I suggest that with our students, that we encourage them to have those little talks with themselves. We're not gonna get it right every time. We have to figure out our way around and through. I'm not a great golf player, but I promise you, I look good when I'm playing. I have on my pink and green matching shirt and skirt. I have on my pink and green golf shoes. I have a pink and green cardigan on with a scarf tied around my neck. I have my visor on, pink or green, depends on the day. And in my left pocket, I have one pink ball, one green ball, one white ball. Guess what I have in my right pocket? I have 3 T's. You want to say it with me? One pink, one green, and one white. You got it. So, just like a successful person's mindset, I know that the front nine, just like in life, is my warm-up, my practice and my opportunity to challenge myself and get better for the back nine. That is sure to come. Work in progress. I know it's not over until I'm finished. I've never played a game of golf in which I didn't experience a myriad of emotions, learn something new, have a challenge, or believe that the next time I played that I would get better. I can't imagine what it must feel like to sincerely believe that the best has already come and that all else is over. All educators and leaders must help our students through the front nine of life so that they can experience a myriad of emotions without becoming overwhelmed, learn something new because knowledge is power, have a challenge because resilience is rigor, or believe that the next time they will get better. When you believe, and I mean sincerely believe, that your life matters and there is hope for a better tomorrow, then happiness will become a part of your DNA. And you will dig deep and you will you will survive even when times are tough. Last week, I announced my retirement to my board and school district family after 34 years of service to this great state. It felt like breaking up with someone who you were still in love with. I've enjoyed a beautiful career and could have retired a few years ago, but we were experiencing COVID and I would not have dared left my sweet ECPS family during that traumatic season. I think explanation and information gives context to decisions such as this. My priorities and the way I've ordered my life is God, family, and then career. But if I'm totally honest, as a superintendent, sometimes my work has taken precedence over my family. It takes a strong spouse with a loving heart to step up and step in your stead while also centering you in the family. Without my dear husband, Ronald Bridges, life would not have been rewarding and certainly not as enjoyable. So I want to spend some time with my family and friends. I want to be more present and engaged in moments, the activities, the cookouts, card games, and the details of everything that happens. I plan to be up in their business. I have absolutely no regrets in my career. My mother turns 80 this summer, and my grandson starts middle school. So no regrets, but I don't want to have any regrets. So it's time for me to live a different way, slow down a bit, and start on my back nine.
That's right.
One final thought I want to leave you with. On April 23rd, 1910, Theodore Roosevelt gave a public address in Paris. At this time, he was the former president, having left office 1 year earlier. So I want to read just a portion of his statement, and it's called "The Man in the Arena." It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deed, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory or defeat. So what was Teddy Roosevelt trying to say? He was capturing in his speech, he tells us that the man or woman we should praise is the man or woman who's out there fighting the big battles. Even if those battles end in defeat, we have to ignore the noise, buckle your chin strap, and battle through whatever comes your way. And as I say to my ECPS family, love you, Dr. B.
That's what everyone's saying.
We're not that bad, we know that ain't your spot. Now you know, I know my spot.
Get in place.
Dr. Bridges. You gotta be on board to get back on. Okay. That's your next phone. Oh, wait, Dr. Jordan's up here. Everybody be quiet.
Commitment to years, sacrifices.
We have one other advisor to thank, and that's our high school senior student advisor, Marcella Villasuso Venegas. But she's actually down the road at Chapel Hill going through her orientation for her next opportunity. How appropriate. And I can't help but say that these three advisors, just as they did on the first day that they sat with us all the way through the last day, have left us with many words of sound advice, so much so that Dr. Petrie Martin, I'd like to ask that a transcript of their remarks today be posted on our website to make it easy for educators and parents and students across our state to benefit from their words today, and that a copy of those transcripts be sent to every member of this board for our opportunity to reflect and soak up the wisdom that they shared with us today. Thank you again. Appreciate that. Next up, we have a very special recognition. I'm delighted to call on Dr. Derek Jordan.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Davis, Superintendent Truitt, board members, and advisors. Thank you for this opportunity to celebrate and honor our colleague, Sherry Thomas. I'm going to ask Sherry to stand, please. Mrs. Sherry Thomas began her career in public education as a teacher of exceptional children in 1979 at Wood Hill Elementary School in Gastonia, North Carolina. She has served in a variety of roles ever since, ultimately becoming the Senior Director for the Office of Exceptional Children. Under Mrs. Thomas's leadership at the Department of Public Instruction, numerous policies, procedures, and practices have been implemented to help meet the needs of North Carolina's students with disabilities. Of particular note is the fact that Sherry admirably led the department's efforts to support schools and districts throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Sherry's career has been predicated on her beliefs that each and every student matters, and meaningful collaboration and dialogue are critical to removing barriers to their success. When some of Sherry's colleagues were recently asked to describe her, they used words like student-focused, supportive, resourceful, visionary, and dedicated. Now, I would probably exceed my allotted time if I were to speak about each adjective, but I must underscore Sherry's dedication. She adjusted her retirement date no less than 3 times to ensure continuity and succession planning within her unit. That's the type of professional she is. Sherry, on behalf of the students you've touched, the educators you've helped develop, and the families and other stakeholders you supported during your career, thank you. And on behalf of Governor Roy Cooper, I am honored to ask Chairman Davis, Superintendent Truitt, and our state board members and advisors to present you the Order of the Longleaf Pine, our state's highest honor. Please come forward to be recognized.
You know, I always have something to say, right? Wow. 37 years of service was both an honor and a privilege, and sometimes exhaustive and frustrating and lonely, because special ed is that area where sometimes it's forgotten. That is not the case with this board and this agency. And so for that, I want to say thank you on behalf of our 204,000 students who identify as a student with disability. I have had the most incredible team, the most incredible support, and people who knew how to do their job, which was to take care of students, families, educators, and administrators, to ensure that we are implementing what we are required by law, but must feel in our hearts to do. Long before we had to change our signature in our email, before you, I had a quote that I used because it meant something to me, and my team is really probably tired of hearing that quote. But I want to share that with you for just a second and hope that you will take this with you as a board and as a Department of Public Instruction to continue to do what is good for all kids. And it's a quotation by William James. And he says, "Act as if what you do makes a difference." It does. So I leave you with that. I thank you for the incredible support. This, I can say, has been the most supportive board for special ed I've ever experienced in the 15 and a half years at DPI. And for that, I thank you. We can only do so much without your support and then the support of our leadership at the department. So thank you all very much. I do, sorry, I'm remiss. I want to thank my husband, John Thomas, and we have our son, Daniel, from France with us today to celebrate this moment. My daughter is in education and she is proctoring, and my son is buried in work today. So they are with us in spirit. But it was a pleasure to have them be with us today. So thank you all.
While we're assembling, I just want to add one personal comment. Sherry is a proud graduate of West Lincoln High School in Lincoln County. The school I went to in West Lincoln were fierce rivals and are to this day. But Sherry is just proof that Lincoln County sends us our best.
Yay, congrats, Sherry.
I know it's a team effort. Yes. Sorry, one more.
He's going to give me
comment.
grace for one more comment.
Sure.
In 4th grade, while we were studying North Carolina history,
The best grade.
I never knew when I had to learn the toast that I would one day receive it.
So next up, we have some presidential scholars to recognize. Dr. Morrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So it's been quite the morning already, and so I'm excited to bring to you the 2023 Presidential Scholars. And so on May 10th, the U.S. Department of Education announced 161 students from across the country as 2023 U.S. Presidential Scholars, 4 of whom are from North Carolina, and they are here with us either virtually or in person. These scholars are selected annually by the White House Commission on Presidential Scholars based on their academic success, artistic and technical excellence, essays, school evaluations, and transcripts, as well as evidence of community service, leadership, and demonstrated commitment to high ideals. U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona has said, "Our presidential scholars represent the best of America and remind us that when empowered by education, there are no limits to what our young people can achieve." The Presidential Scholars Class of 2023 will be recognized for their outstanding achievement by the U.S. Department of Education and President Biden this summer. North Carolina is proud to call these students our own. Their many achievements are a testament to their own hard work and determination. The successes of these 4 students are also representative of the responsibility, dedication, and love poured into them by their parents, family members, and many teachers and educators over the years. I would also like to extend a special thank you to Dr. Chrissy Brown in the Office of Advanced Learning and Gifted Education and Angela May in the Office of Career and Technical Education for leading the work on the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program here at NCDPI. Our first scholar, Georgia Green. Georgia is joining us virtually. Attends the Cleveland Innovation Academy, Cleveland County Schools, and she's a U.S. Presidential Scholar in the Arts. Georgia regrets not being in attendance today for this recognition, but is attending her graduation ceremony this morning from Cleveland Innovation Academy, where she is graduating summa cum laude and valedictorian of her class. Georgia is the daughter of Jason and Margot Green of Shelby, North Carolina. She will attend the Juilliard School this fall, where she is one of 19 pre-professional dancers chosen for this year's incoming freshman class in the discipline of dance. Georgia is a 2023 Young Arts Finalist winner in the discipline of modern and contemporary dance, received her U.S. Presidential Scholar nomination from following a rigorous selection process during Young Arts Week in Miami, Florida in early January. Throughout high school, Georgia has been selected to attend many notable worldwide training intensives, including the Netherlands Dans Theater in The Hague, Arts Umbrella and Ballet BC, both in Vancouver, British Columbia, Alonzo King Lines in San Francisco, and Katzbahn Ballet in Tivoli, New York. Georgia also received her Associate in Arts degree from Cleveland Community College just a few weeks ago. So please join me in congratulating Georgia Green. Our next scholar, Clara Cecilia Brody. Clara Brody is graduating from East Chapel Hill High School as a valedictorian and taking a gap year before heading to Yale, where she hopes to study classics, linguistics, and computer science. In addition to being named a U.S. Presidential Scholar, she also won the Jane Austen Society of North America's International Essay Contest. She is a 4-time gold medalist in the National Latin Exam and received the Elks Foundation Most Valuable Student Award. Clara cares deeply about encouraging civil discourse across social and political divides, and towards that end, founded and directed a civil discourse project that brought together high school students who come from very different surroundings to share their perspectives on controversial subjects. This project has spread to Indiana and Georgia, and most recently helped shape the Let's Talk About It program at the Kidzu Children's Museum. She also serves as the president of the Chapel Hill Youth Council, a counterpart to the local town council. So congratulations to Clara. Our next scholar, Nipun Garantla. Nipun Garantla attends Marvin Ridge High School in Union County Public Schools. He's the son of Sarita Cassetti and Ramana Garantla. He will attend Stanford University this fall to study human biology on the pre-medicine track. In addition to being named a U.S. Presidential Scholar, Nipun has been awarded the title of 2023 Coca-Cola Scholar and is featured in Forbes and other news articles for his work in eroding barriers against healthcare and scientific equity, melding humanism, medicine, and research. As chairman of the International Youth Neuroscience Association, Nipun led 8,000 plus members from over 650 chapters, spearheading global access to neuroscience education. As COO and co-founder of the Neural Village, Nipun helped construct a school in Kwali, Nigeria, to promote health literacy. Whether performing neurological research with the National Science Foundation or Harvard Medical School, coaching students in communication as co-founder and VP of the school's speech and debate team, or fundraising for the Childhood Cancer Society, he always strives to foster empathy and compassion. Nipun is an aspiring pediatric neurologist. Congratulations. And our next scholar, Josiah H. Young. Josiah will graduate summa cum laude from Hickory Ridge High School in Cabarrus County as a member of the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism with the distinction of an advanced placement capstone diploma. He's a U.S. Presidential Scholar in Career and Technical Education. He's a 4-year DECA member and is current co-president of his chapter. Among his senior year accomplishments, Josiah won first place for the second consecutive year at the 2023 North Carolina DECA Conference in Sports and Entertainment Marketing Individual Series event. Josiah was a top 10 finalist in the International Career Development Conference in the Sports and Entertainment Marketing Individual Series event this spring. Beyond the classroom, Josiah applies his career and technical skills as a marketing intern at Miles Mediation and Arbitration and at Headset Sports LLC, which is an agency he founded to develop athletes through branding and image consulting. Josiah will attend the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill this fall to study at the Keenan Flagler Business School and is a Moorhead Kane Scholar. So congratulations.
If you could please come forward, we'd love to make a picture.
I'm intimidated. I'm not sure I'm worthy.
To this.
Let's go Wildcat. Chapel Hill High School graduates right here.
Same grade. Super impressive.
Let me get one myself, okay?
I love this.
Congratulations.
About the kids that graduated from each champion. Buildings goes across the world.
I'm taking some time.
Yes, sweet family.
Surely it's got viral more than that.
Tighten up, Chief.
I'm just kidding.
Hire me. Makes me really feel like, what am I doing?
They need to hire, I trust him. It's gonna be fine.
That's like your retirement plan. All right, now look, this is gonna be my last picture, y'all make it.
Please stop saying stuff like that. My feelings are Nice job. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congrats. I know, super impressive. Go Heels. Yeah. And your mom's kids are so impressive.
Here we go, Tim.
Amazing.
I'm so proud when they're for business.
And knowing that that the students we just recognized are but a small sample of the excellence that's occurring all across our state, I think we're in good hands in their future.
Yes, sir.
And knowing that behind every one of those successful students is not one but multiple teachers, our next recognition is to recognize one of our teachers of excellence, and I'll turn to Mr. Carl Logan.
Chair Davis and Superintendent Truitt, members of the board, I'm ecstatic to be able to offer you this afternoon, this morning, a National Road Safety Teacher of Excellence Award winner, Ms. Sandra Dunbar of Wake County Schools. She's gone through a number of, opportunities here in the state, regionally, and now nationally to be recognized. She is one of 1,300 driver education teachers in the state, and you heard a little bit about the program yesterday, and I'm just terribly excited to be able to offer one of our 1,300 who are dedicated to teachers of excellence. And Ms. Dunbar is here with her husband and our contingent from Jordan Driving School at Wake County. And I'd like to.
Yes, if you could please come forward. Yes, if your husband could.
I just would like to thank everyone very much for supporting all of us driver's ed instructors out there, regardless if we're classroom or behind the wheel. It starts with the classroom teachers, making kids feel comfortable, and then we get them in the car. If y'all want to trade with me any day, come on. I do classroom and behind the wheel. I start at 6 in the morning and I go till 8:30 at night. So I want to say thank you to my family. They all know that mom's never home, she's in the car. So my 4 children, bless their hearts, they're like, Mom, I have my license, you don't have to keep teaching me. I'm like, yes, I do. So I just want to thank you, and thank you for my future job opportunities as well by having children of your own too. So, but again, thank you very much for supporting driver's education.
For every parent who's ever felt that bit of trepidation when they see their child get in the car and drive away for the first time, we can thank our North Carolina teachers who teach them how to drive.
Yes.
And for our final recognition, this one's particularly special because it's one of our own. I'll turn to my colleague, Ms. Jill Kamnitz.
This is a North Carolina State Board of Education resolution honoring Mrs. Amy Bannister White for outstanding service to the North Carolina State Board of Education, June 2016 through June 2023. Whereas the North Carolina State Board of Education takes pride in the extraordinary qualities and dedication of the citizens who have served as members of the North Carolina State Board of Education. And whereas Mrs. Amy White has reflected those qualities in an exceptional manner during her service with the State Board of Education as the 3rd Education District Representative, serving on multiple committees as a committee chair, vice chair, and working group leader, offering her knowledge and expertise from serving on the Wake County School Board from 2001 to 2005. Whereas Mrs. White's appointment by Governor Pat McCrory enabled her to bring her leadership experience as the Executive Director and Director of Development for Community of Hope Ministries since 2010, as she presented information specific to the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee in a clear, thoughtful, organized, and intentional manner. Whereas the board thanks Mrs. White for her dedication to volunteerism and giving back to others, as evidenced by her work as a member of the North Carolina Commission of Volunteerism and Community Service, a former chair of the Garner Educational Foundation, and former vice president of the Garner Chamber of Commerce. Whereas board members pay tribute to Mrs. White's personal commitment to the children of North Carolina and recognize her deep, caring words regarding the welfare of children and her fierce protection of their right to expect North Carolina to live up to its constitutional promise of equal opportunities for all. Whereas the board praises Mrs. White, who is a proud graduate of Wake Forest University with a degree in history, economics, and education, for her relentless efforts to focus on the benefits of public education and educational opportunities. Whereas the State Board of Education members acknowledge the poise, class, and patience that she exhibited while sharing her informed opinions, ideas, and conversations, as she proved to be a consummate board member. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of the North Carolina State Board of Education commend Mrs. Amy White for her dedicated service in performing her many roles on the North Carolina State Board of Education as a truly dedicated, long-serving member. And resolved that the board recognizes and appreciates her untiring, selfless work for 7 years in championing policies and programs in the best interests of North Carolina students and educators, for her cooperative, collaborative leadership with State Board of Education members and advisors, and the staff of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And resolved that the board wishes Mrs. White, her husband, and her sons much happiness and success in the future. And resolved that board members express great gratitude to Mrs. White for modeling the best of public service as a strong and respected leader in public education and a person of strong faith, and directs the Secretary to the State Board of Education to enter a copy of this resolution into the official minutes of the North Carolina State Board of Education.
Ms. White?
Well, I've never been one not to share my opinion. Thank you first for the most incredible 7 years of my life. We had the opportunity to gather as a board last night, and I shared with them that the moment that I received the phone call that I was going to have the incredible privilege to represent the state of North Carolina on the State Board of Education, I met that challenge with awe and incredible humility, because I knew that I would be joining the ranks of some of the most incredible, dedicated professionals that serve the state of North Carolina, because you serve our state's children. All of my career, I've been an advocate for family and children, and always putting them first. One of the biggest aha moments of joining this board was peeling back the layers of the marble that surrounds the building that we work in every day, that you work in every day. And the incredible respect and unbelievable, just absolute awe at all of the work that goes in on every floor in every department by the consummate professionals that you are. And that has been truly remarkable, and I say that everywhere I go and everywhere I have a chance to speak. I will share these last words for you because children are our future, you know that. And so with the word future, I have an acronym that I'd like to share. So my challenge to fellow board members and those that may serve in the seats to come, I'm going to give you F for future. And F is for funding. And F is for funding for the educators that work in our classrooms each and every day. We must pursue the path of career pathways. We must pay them. It is absolutely ridiculous for a high school senior to graduate and make more money in a trade than it is for the educators that work in our classrooms, preparing the future career of the young people in our state. So funding. Students first, also. If you make every decision at this board table and in every superintendency and at every board level, in every PSU, if you keep students first, the decisions will always be right. Use for urgency. The time is now. If you look at our global economy, if you look at global leadership, the United States is falling further and further behind. North Carolina should be a leader. It is urgent that we put practices and policies in place that prepare our students to lead and to never ever be satisfied with second best. T, we must rebuild the trust. We must rebuild the trust in our public schools. I'd encourage you that we've got to put some guardrails back on. Students and parents are craving the guardrails, keeping our students safe, reminding them that they have a pathway, that they need not be dependent on all of the things that the state offers to families that live in poverty or come from poverty, but there is a pathway out of poverty, and that pathway is education. Trust. You understanding. We must work better from this building to the building across the street to gain better understanding about truly what is needed, and that we not operate in silos and in vacuums, such that the decisions that are made are collaborative, concentric, and focused on what our state needs to lead this nation. Understanding. R, responsibility. Decisions made here in every public school unit, the greatest responsibility of this state. Teaching our children everything that they need in order to lead. And the decisions that are made at this table, it is a huge responsibility. Also for R is recovery. Recovery from, during my tenure, I'll say three different superintendents with 3 different plans. Two major hurricanes that hit our state with flooding both in the west and the east, and a major pandemic. Recovery. Which also leads me to use another R word, and that R is reality. And our reality is that we can talk about all those things that happened, but what's real is right now. And we can either choose to look back, or we can choose to look forward and deal with what's before us and make the very best of it. And then E. E is for each and every. E is for all. Every student in the state of North Carolina deserves a sound, basic education and so much more. Shall we not be satisfied with just a sound basic? So E is also for excellence. We should be the best. And that's my charge to you. So I'll leave you with 3 final quotes. You guys know that I am a fan of Clemson football, Dabo Sweeney and his leadership in that program. And he coined a slogan a couple of years ago that said, "Best is the standard." In North Carolina, stop benchmarking. Let folks benchmark against us. Let us be the best so that others look to us to how we lead and how we serve. 2, Jim Valvano, basketball sports fan. He said, never, ever, ever give up. For the student in first grade who's told that they have a 90 IQ, to the student that comes with the dingy shirt and hungry, to the student that's going to be a professional in pediatric neurology. Never, ever give up on any student because of what you think they might have. Every student has potential. Every student can learn. It is up to us to provide that opportunity. And then finally, from the words of Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better. And at this point, we know things that we have done in the past that don't work, and it's time for us to focus on the things that do work and get busy. Thank you for your time. I have enjoyed my time with you.
I couldn't help but notice that those first 2 quotes were from coaches, of teams that Wake Forest loves to beat.
Absolutely. Go Deeps. Go Deeps. Let me just women's golf, Wake Forest just won the national championship, and our baseball team was seeded #1 in the nation for the upcoming tournament. So lots of sports in my future. Go Deeps.
Let's all take a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 10:30.
Of great things to report today. Let's go to the next slide, Maria, and one more, please. Thank you. So my report to you all starts today with a visit that I made at the end of March to Rocky River Elementary School in Union County. This was a very unique day for me because it was an elementary school career fair. And I literally mean a career fair. The gymnasium was set up with about 70 different booths, as well as the outside parking lot. And this principal and her team had brought in people from every kind of career you could imagine. There was a woman there from the SBI. There was a dietitian. There was a veterinarian tech. There was a plumber who had his own business who created a really cool PVC piping experiment for the kids to play with. There were all branches of our military. The SWAT team was there showing kids that how they can sit. I think the next slide has a picture of us sitting in the back of the SWAT truck. The fire department was there. There was a 3D printing company there. There were some engineering firm, an engineering firm was there. It was absolutely incredible. And so there were third graders walking around the school learning about career exploration, which is what we want all kids to start thinking about when they're in elementary school. We want them to wrap their heads and their arms around the idea that something comes after high school. And that something is employment, enlistment, or enrollment. And it's never too early for kids to start thinking about that. And then there's just a little Barney Fife there. One of the little boys came dressed as a policeman that day. He was so cute. And then when you walked into this school, you saw a sign that said, enter a learner, and then when you exited, it said exit a leader. And it was just such a great state of mind for those kids to be in. Soon after that, I went to Iredell Statesville schools. This was a jam-packed day of school visits. We started at Statesville High School, where we got to go to a program called Teaching as a Profession. It's called TAP. It's a class that's a partnership with Western Carolina. And that is for students in high school who might want to become teachers. And then it's partnered with a middle school program where Call Me Mister, which is a program to encourage African American boys to go into the teaching profession. They were there as well. And so I got to talk to some kids about why they would pursue teaching as a profession, and why, after having been through this program, they might not. So it was a very interesting conversation there. Then we went to the Alternative Learning School in Iredell Statesville. Now, those of you who have never been to an alternative learning school, typically the alternative learning schools are for students who are in some way involved in juvenile justice. They have been kicked out of their neighborhood public school, the high school, and they often have a choice. They can be a part of juvenile justice, or they can attend the alternative learning high school. This high school was absolutely incredible. It's called Northview Academy. And one of the things that they do at this school is combine algebra 1 and 2 with running a business. So it's a hands-on, applicable outlet for learning math as well as helping kids get back on track and finding a purpose for their life. What the business that they're running is called Phoenix Apparel, and it is a t-shirt screen printing shop that also does custom embroidery. I watched some of the girls programming very complicated machinery and loading up the threads and making the designs for clients who have placed an order for monogrammed apparel. As well as I talked with the students that are here in this photo. I talked with them about, they allowed me to ask questions like, how did you get here? What happened? And of course, each of them had a different story about how they found themselves at the alternative learning school and what their journey at the school had meant. And one of the girls that we learned about had been handcuffed multiple times in her neighborhood public high school, but had found a purpose when she finally decided to come to alternative learning school and had completely gotten her life back on track. These students have a purpose in this school, and they were very proud to talk to me about what they learned and accomplished and what their future would be for them. Also on that visit, we went to CATS in Iredell-Statesville, which is called the Career Academy and Technical School. This is just an absolutely incredible career and technical education center where students who are enrolled at CATS spend half the day at their high school doing their core academics, and then they spend half the day coming to CATS to pursue their CTE pathway. We saw everything from, they had a drone program, a robotics program, they had a culinary program. Of course, they prepared lunch for us, and in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see these are cakes that they made and decorated for all of us. And each cake was decorated with a CTE theme, a cluster theme. We saw the most incredible automotive repair shop. We saw welding and bricklaying, design, and the principal at this school has been there for 14 years, and he and the faculty told me that in 14 years they've never had a fight at the school. And I will never forget that. They've never had a fight. Moving on to Yancey County Schools. So Yancey County Schools is our #1 producer per capita of career and technical education credentials. And Yancey County is really small, and they are a rural county that has actually seen enrollment increase in their public schools. And they are really doing something right. They are working very hard to be intentional about parent engagement and about the science of reading and letters training with their teachers. But they very much have careers intentionally interwoven throughout middle and high school. I also got to go to Mayland Community College, which supports some of their high school students. And I got to see, they have a 3D printer there. It's, I think, the only one on the Eastern Seaboard that prints in titanium. So I've seen 3D printing with plastic. I've never seen it with metal. And they were making pieces that would go on an airplane, actually printing them out, and I could see the laser, and then it would skip, and because it was making a hole. It was, you had to see it to believe it. It's incredible. And that partnership with Malin Community College was, again, another example of how our rural community colleges who are partnering with their high schools are making a difference for individual students. We also went on that trip to Blue Ridge Elementary School and just saw all the ways that we see teachers love on, protect, and lift up all students every day. Yancey County is no exception to the growth that we've been seeing in our early literacy skills. They have seen incredible improvements for all kids, and it was just such a treat to see. I think in the next slide, the kids had created a model operation game. So that the kids, it was an electronics project to create, so that, remember the game Operation where you put the tweezers in and it buzzes? So they had created that as both an anatomy and an electronics project. And then you also see, you can kind of see it here on the next slide, Maria, in the bottom left, they, through a grant, got heavy equipment simulators. They have 2 of them. And I am a horrible dirt mover. But the instructor was incredibly patient with me. And then Julie Pittman was with me, and we both got to try it. And then we got to watch the kids doing it. And they're actually getting certified when they graduate in the trades, in the construction trades. They've got this indoor construction facility that's about 10,000 square feet. And they are building homes in a controlled environment for habitat that then go out and go in the community. It was absolutely incredible. Again, just amazing in a district that size to see the kinds of opportunities that they've created for their students. And they are, of course, under the incredible, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Jeff James in Iredell Statesville, and then also Kathy Amos in Yancey County Schools. Those of you who've been on the board for a while remember that Southside Ashpole Elementary School was for a time part of the ISD, the Innovative School District, and it has in the last year moved out of the Innovative School District. And I was invited to come to their STEM lab ribbon cutting. And then there was a tour after that. And I was very gratified to see so many people from the community in Southside Ashpole come out for this event, not just school board members, but other people from the community to come and see what was happening. And in her remarks, their principal, who's just incredible, she talked about how the research says that STEM today is as critical as literacy. And that our students, if they are going to be employable, we've got to continue pushing forward with the STEM education that we're giving our students. And they were proof positive that all education is in service to post-secondary plans, whatever they may be. And this district has just done an incredible job of, again, I would walk into a room and kids, it's like those of us who've been in the classroom, we know what engagement looks like, we know what compliance looks like, and they're not always the same. And I got to see in all of these visits kids so engaged in learning and in collaboration and all the things that we value in the Portrait of a Graduate. So a big thank you to Southside Ashpole for inviting me to come. Next slide, please. When at the AIM conference in October, our AIM organizers decided to offer a prize to the teachers that won a particular contest that we had going, that they would get to spend the day with the superintendent. And we had some winners, and they are right here, of course, led by our own regional Teacher of the Year from the Sandhills, Elizabeth Santamore. And so when I met Elizabeth the first time, she said, the very first thing she said to me is, can you get me a meeting with the governor? And I said, well, that's actually a job for Mr. Coltrane, but I will do my best. And so then, months later, she won the contest along with these other fine teachers, and I took them, next slide please, we scheduled it on Council of State Day, and I got to introduce Elizabeth to the governor. And so he was very happy to meet with these incredible teachers. And we also had that day with us a young man who had written to me. He's a 9th grader in Wake County Public Schools, and he had written to me to say that he was fascinated by state government, and in particular education policy. And I thought, this has got to be a joke. There's no 9th grader who's fascinated by state politics and education. I can't even get my own children to listen to me about these things. So I wrote back just in case it was not a joke, and it was not a joke. And so Evan came to visit with us, and we were the teachers and I were absolutely blown away by the conversation that we had with him. And he came with us to Council of State so he could see everything firsthand. And I've never met a 9th grader who knew more about state government than this young man. And then they were able to go over to the legislature and meet with their General Assembly members, and you can see them here. They met with Representative Torbett, who is the chair of the K-12 Education Committee. They got to give him an earful, and it was just an incredible day. And I thank those teachers for coming and being honest and wanting to have critical conversations with us. We had some students come to visit the Department of Public Instruction this past month. Our house pages came over one day representing all different parts of our state. And of course, they have to be sponsored by a local legislator, and then they spend 3 days as house pages getting to see the legislative process play out. Again, when you have the privilege of getting to talk to teenagers, it gives you hope, and it helps you realize that our future is secure because we have so many amazing students in our state. And then also, about a month ago, the superintendent's student advisory council was here and working on their presentation, which will be given after the state board meeting to those board members who are able to be here for it. And they will be presenting about their project, what they have been working on in terms of a policy piece. And again, just another stellar group made up of juniors and seniors from all over the state. Next, we have our Teacher of the Year and Principal of the Year recognitions. And I was joined by Vice Chair Duncan at the Umstead for our Teacher of the Year ceremony in April. And of course, congratulations to Kim Jones, who from Chapel Hill High School, I'm seeing a theme here. She is our 2023 Burroughs Welcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year. And I believe her first meeting will be in August, Maria, is that correct? Thank you. She is a veteran high school English teacher. We love our high school English teachers at Chapel Hill High School. She came to the Chapel Hill faculty in 2006 after earning her undergraduate and graduate degrees from Wake Forest, another Wake Forest University grad, and has taught 10th grade English and AVID, which is a program that a lot of us are familiar with. That's just an incredible program for underrepresented communities. And then recently, I was joined again by Vice Chair Duncan at the Umstead to announce our 2023 North Carolina Principal of the Year, and that is Donna Bledsoe from Cedar Ridge Elementary Schools in Surrey County. And of course, she was accompanied by her superintendent, and she is the leader of two 2022 Cedar Ridge was one of two lighthouse schools of the statewide advancing for student achievement and innovation in creative ways in nurturing a positive and supportive school and community atmosphere. And the selection committee was obviously just incredibly impressed with her achievements as a principal. So we're going to be very excited to welcome both of our new advisors to continue working with Dr. Green and Ms. Carper in the coming school year. And then finally, we have something that I personally look forward to every year, and that is our Purple Star Award ceremony. Purple Star recipients are those schools and sometimes even entire district that receive a special award due to their efforts to support military-connected families. And speaking, my husband actually is retiring after 30 years of military service this month. My students have my own children have been military connected for their entire school career, and it is an incredible, necessary, and special thing when a school takes extra effort to recognize those military connected children. And so 336 Purple Star Award winners this year, including 9 charter schools and 17 districts, which means that the whole district was recognized for being a Purple Star Award winner. And, you know, these districts are not just located in areas near our military installations, because North Carolina has the 3rd largest military population in the country, and we have our military personnel often retire out of the Southeast, but then they move to Charlotte or they move to the mountains. We have military connected students all over our state. And so I want to be clear that this is not just about our incredible Cumberland County schools who, yes, do an amazing job and are incredible Purple Star recipients every year. It's about districts all over the state and how they serve our military connected families. And then you can see a picture here of some of our award winners and our color guard, which came from Wake County Public Schools. And a big shout out to Dr. Angie Molinex, who is the main champion of that event. She is, of course, former military and a military spouse, double duty for being military connected. And so just a big shout out to her for all the work she does on our military commission and the way that she goes about serving our military connected families. So, and Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. We're running a bit behind schedule, so we're going to move along to our committee discussions, and we'll begin with the Student Learning and Achievement Committee led by Ms. Jill Kamnitz. Ms. Kamnitz.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Dr. Olivia Oxendine and I share the responsibility of the work of this committee. We started out with an item of new business, K-12 Healthful Living Standards update. We were happy to have gotten to the first draft of the health and physical education standards. It is complete. We heard from Dr. Chris Wurzela, who served on the data review committee. He walked us through how that committee used the results of research, surveys, focus groups, and interviews to develop recommendations for possible revisions to the K-12 Healthy Living Standards. And in general, the themes of these recommendations were a preference to keep most of the current content, a need to clarify language in the standards and objectives, and a concern, which I think we've heard before, that there was not enough class time to teach all of the objectives. We then heard from Debbie Bryant, who served on the standards writing team, about the next steps. Debbie Bryant walked us through the process that group used in developing the final draft. The next steps are the release of the standard by standard stakeholder and PSU surveys, followed by the analysis of the data resulting from those surveys, and that will be used by the standards writing team to develop draft 2. As we saw in the development of the science standards, there have been and will continue to be multiple opportunities for feedback from both PSUs and other stakeholders on these various drafts of the health authority standards. Action on first read, SLA 1 is permission to revise standards for K-12 arts, guidance, and world languages. As is outlined in the internal procedures manual, initial steps in the review phase for these 3 subject areas have been completed. Standards research and information from focus groups and interviews were used by the data review committees to complete their findings and recommendations in each area. And the next step will be the selection of the standard writing teams during the summer. We're looking to see perhaps a first draft of those 3 sets of standards in early 2024. So our approval today is required for that process to move forward. Items for discussion, SLA 2 is recommendations to eliminate the Compliance Commission of Accountability and to repeal State Board Education Policy ADVS-000. This commission was established in 1997 to advise DPI and the State Board on issues relating to school accountability and improvement. However, for the past 13 years, the commission's primary purpose has been to review appeals relating to standalone field tests, which are no longer administered. Thus, the commission has no defined purpose and has not met since 2018, so the recommendations that we're voting on today would eliminate the commission and repeal the policy that established the commission. SLA 3 is State Board of Education policy amendments to the 2024-25 CTE course inventory, standard course of study, SCOS-005. These course revisions are necessary annually due to the technical nature of the content of these courses and the rate of change in certain industries. The revisions consist of changes in course titles and descriptions, the addition of new courses, and the removal of some other older courses. The division continues to rethink the organization and branding of career technical education pathways to improve the understanding of students, parents, and businesses in terms of what those courses offer and the future pathways that they open the door to. And we also heard about a national career clusters framework revision that is underway. SLA 4 is also a policy amendment, course for credit, which is CCRE-001. We heard that an amazing 84% of our graduating seniors have earned credit in honors courses during their high school careers. These courses obviously have a great impact on our students' education, and this amendment adds statewide guidance and a framework to ensure the fidelity, consistency, and implementation of honors level courses throughout North Carolina. An honors level course guide will be developed, which will include course development and an evaluation tool. PSUs will be expected to implement the procedures in the guide, attest the courses they offer by the end of the 24-25 academic year, and then evaluate their honors courses every 3 years. This will assure that every honors level course provides depth in rigor, complexity, challenge, and creativity for our students. SLA 5 is the final draft 3 of the proposed K-12 science standards. Our monthly updates on the development of these standards have given us a new appreciation for the complexity of the work and the commitment of so many science educators to that work. Their efforts have come to fruition, and we have a final draft 3 of the standards for discussion yesterday. Dr. Aiken reviewed the process, emphasizing the multiple opportunities for feedback throughout. Recommendations from the stakeholder survey of draft 2 informed the work that produced this final draft. The wording of some standards and objectives was clarified to improve readability, vertical alignment was examined, additional suggestions and notes were provided to DPI for the development of support materials and professional development, which would follow our approval of these standards. Dr. Aiken also explained the connections between the proposed standards and the durable skills outlined in our portrait of a graduate. We then turn to the development of the science extended content standards, which was that process was going forward in concert with the K-12 science standards. These standards, extended content standards, apply to our students with significant cognitive disabilities who make up about 1% of our school population. The process was, as I said, was very similar to the standard course of study with frequent feedback from the fields. And we actually heard from Jennifer Lilly, who served on the standards writing team, about her very positive experience in working on those extended content standards. The next step in that process is pending our approval will be to develop a timeline for testing, development, and implementation to complement those standards. 3 consent items. SLA 6 is approval of remote academy application for the 23-24 school year. Earlier this year, we authorized 42 academies. Northampton County has since submitted their application. It has been reviewed by the Office of Virtual Instruction Services and is being recommended for approval. SLA 7 is North Carolina State Board of Education appointments to the Council on Educational Services for Exceptional Children. We'll be voting to approve 3 appointments. Ms. Opal Blair and Ms. Peyton Davis, representing parents of children with disabilities, and Dr. Pamela Watkins, representing local education agencies. And finally, we have SLA 8, which is our official endorsement of North Carolina Portrait of a Graduate, which we read such endorsement yesterday, so we'll be approving that. And that is the conclusion of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Kamnitz. Any questions on the SLA committee work? Okay, then just as a reminder, before us today from SLA is items 1, 6, and 7, and 8. Is a request to pull any one of those for separate vote. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee led by Ms. Amy White. Ms. White.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Good morning, everyone. Share the responsibility of leading this committee with Ms. Jill Kamnitz. We have 5 action items and 3 items for action on first read. EICS 1 is a request from Clover Garden, a charter school in Alamance County in Burlington. It's a K-12 school. That school was in the process of outfitting a 9-12 high school facility and learned a month ago that that building is not going to be ready. So they're before us with a request to relocate the 9-12 high school to a retail space that they've secured a lease with until their new building is ready. EICS 2 is a request from Aspire High Trade School to increase with a total of 32 students. This is a trade charter school that will be opening this fall. They have had several delays, but with a tweak in their facility and a new available classroom space, they're available to add those additional students, and that will help them to meet the enrollment requirements as set forth in their charter. EICS 3 was a request from Movement School Northwest, another charter school. It will be new, opening this fall in Mecklenburg County. Movement School is actually requesting a decrease in enrollment from 250 students down to 125. They have evaluated their model and have decided to focus on students in kindergarten and first grade, and then will allow their student capacity to build from there. EICS 4 is a request from Wake County Public Schools to add 4 more schools to their Restart program. That program is led by James Overman. Wake County has a strong record of success with the Restart program, and that request is before us today for approval. EICS 5 is our report to the North Carolina General Assembly on our charter schools. It's an annual report due to the JLEOC by June the 15th. On action on first read, we have 3 items. EICS 6 is a request by Craven County, who had a restart application that was previously approved by this board for J.T. Barber Elementary, but due to a recent change in leadership at J.T. Barber and 2 additional schools which are onboarding. J.T. Barber came back before us requesting an additional year of planning for implementation so that they have time to make sure that all 3 of those schools start the restart process with fidelity. EICS 7 are nominations to the Schools for the Deaf and Blind in response to recent legislation. The 2 nominees before us for approval today are Tracy Wilkerson and Gary Farmer. Those 2 candidates were unanimously approved by their individual advisory boards for the School of the Deaf and School of the Blind. There's 1 additional nominee who will be brought forth at a later date, possibly in August. EICS 8 is a request from Aristotle Preparatory Academy in Mecklenburg County to relocate from its current position in a school that they have been trying diligently to find a new space for several years. Their current space has had quite a challenge with mold and several other facility issues. When the state board voted to close a charter school on the other side of the county, that facility became available, and Aristotle Prep is requesting to move to the vacated facility on the east side of Charlotte. EICS 9 was a discussion item brought forth by Ms. Ashley Beccaro. There are several schools that have been involved in the Ready to Open year, preparing to open in the fall of 2023. These are not the final recommendations. These are the preliminary recommendations. Those schools are Wayne STEM Academy, which was approved by CSAB, Mountain City Public Montessori School in Asheville, also approved by CSAB. In fact, all of these were. Aspire Trade High School, Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy, Movement School Northwest, School of the Arts for Boys Academy, and Legacy Classical Academy. These schools will have 1 more opportunity to appear before CSAB or be interviewed by CSAB, and at that time, the Charter School Advisory Board will determine the final recommendations for approval or denial for opening this coming August. Mr. Chair, that concludes our report. Are there any questions? Vice Chair Duncan.
I could make actually 2 comments briefly. One is on the Aristotle Academy. I'm going to vote in favor of it despite the comments and questions I asked yesterday. I spent a lot of time weighing last night what's the best situation for these children because they're not in a healthy location. And ultimately I've come down on the side that the best thing is for them to be in a healthier location. That said, I have great reservations about where they're going and what the transaction looks like, and I think that needs to be very carefully monitored. We don't just transfer students to another building without having what really matters, which is not the building that drives the school, it's the school that drives the building. And so I think we have to have a real focus on that. But I did want to say, despite great reservations, and I don't take back any of those, I still have them, but I do care about, obviously, the health of our kids first and foremost. The second thing I'd like to say, it's the last chance, and this is the appropriate location for it during the meeting, in your role as chair, that it has been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. And I greatly admire all that you've done for children in the past, and I greatly admire all that you're going to do in the future as you continue in your journey. So thank you. We've had a lot of great conversations. This is the best one yet.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan, for the kind comments and for highlighting letter F in future, and that's children first. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, that concludes our report, Mr. Chair.
So thank you, Ms. White. So as a reminder, the EICS team is bringing us 8 items. Is there a desire to pull any of those 8 items for separate vote? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the Healthy Responsible Students Committee, led by Mr. Reginald Keenan. Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Reginald Keenan, along with Alan Duncan. We are co-chairs together on this committee. And Mr. Chair, yesterday we had one for discussion item, and we had great presentation by Dr. Ellen Essick, and it was to amendments to the middle school athletic manual. Those changes were necessary due to the recent policies and rule changes in alignment with best practice for the student athletes. And of course, there were many significant changes in that particular manual, but one that stands out greatly is the one for the implication of the Mercy Rule, and we all know what that's all about. And again, she did a great job in presenting that. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. So that discussion item will be back before us next month for consideration. Any questions on healthy, responsible students? Next is our Government Community Affairs Committee led by Mr. Wendell Hall. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Wendell Hall, the chair of the Government and Community Affairs Committee, along with Jill Cannons. I will be brief this morning because we had a lengthy discussion yesterday concerning the bills that's moving through the General Assembly as we sit today. But just to emphasize some of those noteworthy ones, of course, the teacher pay is a big issue, and they're still out there. Right now, it's a 5% proposal with teacher pay. We don't know where that's going to go, but that bill is still under discussion. And by the way, everything we talk about is under discussion. Nothing is passed yet, so be aware of that, or keep your mind on that particular point. But also, we talked about a little yesterday concerning the teacher pathway. As we talked about a lot. It seems like we do have movement in that direction, a modest movement, but still movement to start that process in years to come. We also talked a lot yesterday about the military spouse and he or she being able to teach in North Carolina if their military spouse has been transferred to another job here in the state. We talked about, and that is a plus. That is a big plus. But we also talked about dealing with school safety grant. I think the state superintendent and Mr. Funberg yesterday attended a hearing dealing with that school safety. About $35 million right now is in that particular proposal, increased funding. We're also looking at adding school nurse, about 120, but it's also some flexibility that's built into that because school nurses is really needed, but we also need a school psychologist, maybe, along with some social workers to help with that mental health issue. We did talk yesterday about SEL, and I'm going to bring that up briefly. Emotional learning, social emotional learning. I'm a large proponent of that, have been for years. But I learned something yesterday, Mr. Chairman, and I didn't know it either until you brought it up. The 5 components. I just thought it was just SEL, but it's 5. And then when I look at this, I see a lot of it, and we also understand that a lot of SEL is embedded in those standards. That we talk a lot about it throughout the meetings. Hopefully next month we meet in July, Mr. Chairman. Well, hopefully next month, or really by August 1, we'll know the ground floor. Hopefully, the General Assembly has made its mind up, and we will know moving forward what dollars we have, what programs we have, and what we're going to do. Go back to your F, Madam Chair White. The future is bright, regardless of. The future is still bright. And I will entertain any questions you have about our government relations, but keep your ears open, your heart open to what's going on over the General Assembly. I'm not going to name all the different programs that impacts the work that we do on a monthly basis as we sit and debate and talk about those $1.5 million, $1.5 million K-12 students in this state. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I believe you do have one consent item.
I have one consent item. I was going to wait a minute, see if I had any questions about that, but thank you. We have 2 recommendations, names coming forward to serve on the Military Interstate Children's Commission. And those 2 individuals is the Superintendent Dr. Flemings from Harnett County, and Mr. Lanier, who is a board member from Onslow County, if I remember correctly. And he's also on the North Carolina School Board Association Board of Directors. I have to say this again, Mr. Lanier is a 20-year Marine veteran. And those would be before you today, for us today, to vote upon.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions on government and community affairs? Hearing none, we'll move to Educator Standards and Practice Committee led by Dr. Olivia Oxendine. Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I am Olivia Oxendine, Chair of the ES&P, and joining me for the last 7 years has been Ms. Amy White. So I will just take no more than about 30 seconds to convey my deep appreciation for all the support that she has given to me in this capacity as the co-leader of ES&P. Gonna miss our Tuesday calls and the calls in between, and just wish you all the very, very best. So with that said, I will move on to the first item in my portion of the agenda is a new business item. This item was presented by Mr. Carl Logan, Tanya Easterwood, and Dr. Amelia Royster Davis, and it was an update of the driver education program. We're very proud of that program in North Carolina, and we realize that when we have these updates on at least an annual basis. So this, the highlights of the presentation included priorities around continuous improvement in the area of instruction, because it is a two-part program. It is behind the wheel and in the classroom. So a lot of work continues to take place in the area of improving and implementing the driver education highway safety curriculum. We learned that there is a new partnership in place with the Office of Safer Schools, and that will specifically involve the school resource officers to some extent. The standardization of a tool to measure program effectiveness of the driver education program. We learned a little bit about teacher certification, what is going on in professional development, and also we learned yesterday that we have 5 districts that are actually using the learning management system for online digital education, teaching I should say, and anything the state board can do, or Superintendent Truitt, to expand that opportunity to other districts around the state of North Carolina would be great. We also learned that the Office of Driver Ed has developed, and probably in the phases of disseminating, a manual to school administrators and teachers and other leaders in our district, in our PSUs, and that have anything to do with driver education. So the recommendation to this board is that we continue to support the improvement of our statewide driver education program. So that was our new business item. I'll go on to action on first reading. We have 2 items under action on first reading. The first item was brought to us by Dr. Syberg, and this is to approve the initial authorization of the Central Carolina Community College to operate as an EPP and offer the residency program in elementary education. The second item under action on first reading was brought to us by Mr. Marty Toby. He is the Assistant Director for CTE, and this is a policy amendment item that will may apply. It simply says that an individual may apply for initial CTE restricted license in an area, in a different area, different than the area in which they are initially seeking licensure. So this extends the opportunity to seek a license in a different area. In other words, to add an item, a different area to their license. So that was the second item under action on first reading. The next items are going to be our discussion items. ES&P 3, vendor-based exam changes, and this was presented by Dr. Kim Evans. She highlighted several changes. The first of those is the Foundations of Reading. The 090 test is now expired, and the new test is 190 that is now in effect. She also recommends that we remove, or brings to us for our approval, that we remove the principles of learning, teaching, which is the PLT for secondary education licensing areas, because we have to replace that particular test. We have either the EdTPA or the PPAT that is offered in our EPPs. In the area of special education, there are two changes with regard to two exams in special education. Those numbers are, the current number is 5543, it will be changed to 5355. The new test becomes effective September 1, 2023, and the current test will expire next August. And another change in special education applies to the title of the test. Is Praxis Special Education Test Core Knowledge Applications Test. The code is 5340, it will change to 5355, and it becomes effective in September 1 this year. And the current test will expire next year, next August. In the area, also under discussion, let me add this. There are changes in the cut scores. The cut scores in both, with respect to both tests, have decreased by just a few points, but that has nothing to do with we can't look at that and say the test is not as difficult, the rigor is missing. It is just the changes in the cut scores oftentimes reflect changes in the design of items. So not to be concerned with the lowering of the cut score. Also in the category of discussion, we have ES&P4. This was presented by Dr. Tomperlin, and this pertains to a federal provision, an act that was passed in 2022, the Veterans Auto Education Improvement Act. This will, it kind of calls down to meaning this. It will allow spouses of active military personnel whose orders bring them to duty stations here in North Carolina to hold a teaching position using a valid license from another jurisdiction. North Carolina will not, DPI will not issue these individuals a North Carolina license. We're recognizing the license that they hold from another jurisdiction. So that is a real plus. It should remove some barriers in terms of recruiting and hiring teachers. The provisions that apply to this act are spelled out in your item. The NC, well, as I said, the NC license is not issued to the spouse. Provisions are presented in the item, in the material, in your state board material. The person, the individual, will be paid on the teacher salary and be eligible for the county supplement if one is provided. The provision will remain in effect until the orders expire or June 30th of that same year, whichever is the latter. ES&P 5 was also presented by Dr. Tomberlin. This was a report to the General Assembly, the JLEOC. That report was presented to the JLEOC in March, and with the understanding that once the data became available, that the report would once again be presented to the state board as it was yesterday. And this pertains to, the report pertains to the Teacher Bonus Program 2021-2022 fiscal year. We had a really good discussion around this report related to the findings, and much of the discussion had to do with EVOS and what does the EVOS really mean? Is EVOS about the performance of the student, or is EVOS about the effectiveness of the teacher? Dr. Tomberlin noted that there is stability, there seems to be some stability in the area of mathematics in terms of the math teachers in third grade receiving a bonus. So as we all kind of agree, there's a lot of information in that report for further research and study. And the last item is a consent item presented by Dr. Carl Logan, ES&P 6. This is the North Carolina, pertains to the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee. Mr. Logan is recommending that that we approve the appointment of Ms. Sherry Brunelson, Section Chief, of sensory support and assistive technology in the EC division. So that concludes ESCP.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. Any questions on the Educator Standards and Practice report? They're bringing us 3 items, 1, 2, and 6. Any requests to vote on those separately? Hearing none, we'll proceed to Business Operations Committee led by Vice Chair Duncan. Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Along with Wendell Hall, we led our meeting yesterday and had some good discussion on several items. I want to note that as we started the day today, this room was standing room only and teeming with excitement. Well deserved. We honored our board advisors, which was wonderful. We honored one of our former department leaders, which was great. We honored education employees of excellence who serve our students every day. And we honored one of our own board members. It's truly been a great day. It really has been a great day. And the appropriate audience as now left in the room, which is to say they've departed, for the BizOp committee meeting, which we will quickly cover. Our first item was BizOp 1's approval of contracts over $500,000. The first contract presented by Diane Delaney as Director of Office of Data, Reporting, and Privacy involves a contract for eScholar software that helps with federal reporting requirements, of which we have a number. It's in fact essential to those, being able to make those reports. Our second contract was with the Friday Institute School Connectivity Contract. And as Dr. Vanessa Wren, our Chief Information Officer who presented this, was able to highlight, this really maximizes the value of E-rate and the very, very, very good use that our department has made of E-rate and is viewed as a leader in that area. Our third contract was a DIT contract on the unique identifier system presented by Julian Alhauer, Director of the Office of Enterprise Systems. And this is advancing the cause of pre-K through workplace unique identifier systems for our students as we move forward. Our fourth contract was a DIT convenience contract called No B4. Tim Weiss, our Director of IT Security Specialty, our specialist, presented this contract. It is, if you will, the human element of preventing issues with computer fraud, computer scams. It's the educational element for our people. And this contract is one that's important for that educational purpose. Fifth and last contract was a DIT convenience contract also on Microsoft Imagine Academy renewal for 2023-24. Trey Michael, our Senior Director of the Office of CTE, presented this contract, which brings about substantial savings for our many Microsoft services for our children. BizOp 2 is the approval of our Digital Learning Initiative grants for public school units for 2023-24. Our presenter was Lindsay Syke, who's an education program consultant with digital learning programs. There are 3 areas of grants, and she presented an overview for all of those. There's Digital Age Learning Initiative for emerging technology. There's Digital Age Learning Initiative for professional learning, and there's Digital Age Learning Initiative for impact grants, if you will. So those 3 areas were reviewed. There will be a process in which, or has been a process in which grants have been established. A number of applicants were applied, and we have before us approval of these grants that have been proposed. BizOp 3 was McKinney-Vento subgrant award recommendations for 2023 through 2026. This is federal grant money and involved approximately $2.7 million, as I recall the number, that will go out to districts that have made applications. The districts are LEAs who have applied, who have 50 or more students, or alternatively, PSUs who have applied, who have 50 or more students, or finally, consortia of either LEAs that are small, who are working with other LEAs in order to get to the 50 student mark, or consortia of PSUs, often charter schools, who don't have 50 or more homeless students in their school, but combined with some partnering with some other schools, do get to 50. And there are grants that are made available, and the description of how the award recommendations were to come about, and how These funds are going to help students who truly need the assistance, was described by Lisa Phillips, who's the coordinator for the education of homeless children and youth with the Serve Center at UNCG. We had a very good discussion on that. BizOp 4 is an ESSER 3 funding request. This is funds that were not already used in their original assignment. Dr. Rachel Wright Junio, Director of Office of Learning Recovery and Acceleration, presented to us. There's approximately $2 million that was available of these funds. These funds, as you all know, are good until September 30th of 2024. The recommendation is that we allow $2 million of these funds to go for summer career learning opportunities. These are programs that, in the opinion of the Office of Learning Recovery, have been helpful to students, and the feedback they've gotten from districts has been positive. It allows districts to continue over this summer and have the possibility also of continuing over next summer as well, since that's before the end of the grant. Our action items are started at BizOp 5, which the first one is a report to the North Carolina General Assembly with supplemental funds for teacher compensation report. Alexa Schaus presented on this, and we heard a discussion about how both Ms. Schaus, her department, as well as the legal department with Mr. Hogemeyer and his colleagues working together and working closely with districts on some interpretation of language in the statute that has been difficult for a number of districts. The consequences are significant, so as you'll recall, there's an explanation that's been included in the report as to what the complications were and the interpretation issues. There are 20 districts that are listed, and this has potential ramifications for this year's award, which is, as we learned in our government affairs report yesterday, is $170 million to the districts, well, to all but 4 of the districts, for supplemental compensation for teachers. And we also, I believe, agreed by consent that included with this would be a endorsement of funding a forgiveness, if you will, for those districts that had the issue that has come up with the interpretation of the language. And so that would be part and parcel of this particular item. For the General Assembly to consider, we understand there is some clause in the budget bills to that effect already, so we would be supporting that clause. BizOp 6 is the request for approval for an RFP to go out with respect to North Carolina Stronger Connections Grant. If you recall, this is a significant grant. It's North Carolina's share is $30 million. Nationally, it was a $1 billion grant from Congress. And there was some guidance given. It's not probably the clearest guidance we've ever gotten on a grant about how to proceed with this. The recommendation's been made by the Office of Federal Programming. Timothy Dryman, our education program administrator in that federal programs department, presented for us, and we had a discussion about it last time. This is an item I think we should pull out for a separate vote. Chair, there are at least 2 members who are recused, and so I think it would be better to pull this one out for a separate vote. BizOp 7 is a consent item, which is a report to the North Carolina General Assembly with school start dates and end dates. No more needs to be said. We're all familiar with that report. BizOp 8 is certification of finance officers. Good news, we have 5 to formalize in this meeting. We also covered updates on contracts for executed contracts and planned contracts, and had the monthly budget report available for any questions that we may have had. And are there any questions on any of those items? That being said, we complete our report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. So there are 8 items coming to us from the Business Operations Committee. BizOp 6 will be voted on separately, and I note for the record that Mr. Keenan has recused himself from that item. Mr. Hall?
Yes. I recuse myself. I asked if he recused.
Mr. Hall also recuses himself from that item. Any questions on business systems operations report? Okay. Before I turn to the chair's report, I want to go back to the superintendent for an amendment to her report. Superintendent True.
Thank you, Chair Davis. So I know some some of you have been wondering why I have these two little dogs sitting up here with me. And I neglected to mention earlier that these are two service dogs at Northview High School, which is the alternative learning high school I explained about in my report in Iredell, Statesville. And this is Jake and this is Annie. And they are two therapy dogs at the school who we got to meet when we were there. And the kids had done a 3D printout of Jake and Annie for me to take back to the department. So that's who these are. They're so cute. And they will be displayed downstairs on our display shelf in the second floor lobby.
Thank you, Superintendent. Yes?
May I ask that quickly? Thank you so much for explaining about those two dogs. Each time I'm going to take a picture, and it's good.
I know.
I know.
What are these dogs?
And I thank you so much for it.
Absolutely. Therapy dogs are actually, we're seeing more and more in our schools. This is the first time I've seen one in a high school. I typically see them in elementary schools, and there's just something about a therapy dog that is good for everyone's soul in a school.
And not only that, we're seeing a lot in your hospitals.
Yes, sir.
Especially in the Neil area. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. A couple items on my report. There's two items that are on our action agenda that I want to bring to your attention. The first concerns the proposed 2024 State Board of Education meeting dates. They're attached in your materials. I'll remind us all that per State Board Policy SBOP 006, regular meetings of the board shall be held on the first Thursday of each month unless otherwise scheduled, canceled, or rescheduled by the board. So are there any questions on the proposed 2024 meeting dates? Okay, that'll be before you in just a moment. This second item we discussed in closed session, which is request of approval of 11 limited licenses and 6 initial professional licenses. That's on our action agenda, and I bring that also to the public's attention. That's an example of the challenges that our teachers, principals, and superintendents are facing with our current licensure system, and why we are interested in moving forward with the proposed pathways item. Any questions on those? Very good. A couple other items to mention before we vote. As we come to the beginning of another school year, it's appropriate for us to revisit some of our State Board of Education committee assignments, and particularly with Ms. White's transition, I'm pleased to announce the following appointments. Mr. John Blackburn will move into the role as Chair of the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee, as well as Vice Chair of the Business Operations Committee. Second, while continuing to serve as Chair of the Government and Community Affairs Committee, Mr. Wendell Hall will assume the role of Vice Chair of the Healthy Responsible Students Committee. And Dr. Tipton Rogers will also assume the role of Vice Chair of the Educator Standards and Practices Committee. I want to thank these board members for taking on additional responsibilities, as well as my thanks to every member of this board that serves on these committees. That's where the work gets done, and I appreciate your individual leadership in those areas. I also would want to remind us all that our next meeting is on July 6th, and as is our custom, it will be a virtual one-day meeting. So you'll get a little break from my nagging for you to be here on time and present. But we will meet virtually on July 6th, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to cover, so we look forward to that meeting as well. We'll now move to vote on any items. Yes, Mr. Treasurer.
The calendar being set for next year, is the off-site meeting location also in that schedule?
No, the two planning work sessions, November and May, the locations have not yet been determined, but we'll communicate those just as soon as we can.
But they'll be away from here.
That's the plan. That's our desire. Thank you for bringing that up.
As soon as I can know that, that's helpful.
Yes. Yeah, we appreciate that opportunity to go visit with some of our partners across the state, as we've been able to the last 2 times. We'll now move to voting on any action, any item requiring action from your committee reports. A thorough discussion and report was provided on each item, including our consent agenda, which contain items that are primarily not complex and have been before us many times the prior month. Also note that we've seen these consent items for a week. And we've also identified Biz Op 6 to vote on separately, so we'll proceed to voting on the main motion. That is, I seek a motion now to approve the following. Approval of the biannual planning and work session minutes of May 2nd and 3rd, 2023. Minutes of our regular monthly meeting on May 4th, 2023, and the special called meeting on May 8th, 2023. Also seek approval for SLA 1, 6, 7, and 8, EICS 1 through 8, GCA 1, ESNP 1, 2, and 6, BizOp 1 through 5, and 7 and 8. The proposed 2024 State Board of Education meeting dates, and the 11 limited license and 6 initial professional license approvals requested in closed session yesterday. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion by the treasurer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Ford. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Dr. Petrie Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Mrs. Kamnitz.
Yes.
Mr. Keenan.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. Amy White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Dr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson. Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes. That motion carries unanimously. Last item on our agenda is the business operations item number 6. Is there a motion to approve that item?
So moved.
Motion by the treasurer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. White. Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, Dr. Petrie Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Mrs. Kamnitz.
Yes.
Mr. Keenan.
Yes, Mr. Keenan recuses himself from this item.
Sorry. Also, Mr. Hall has recused himself as well. Dr. Tipton Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Dr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson. Vice Chair Duncan.
No.
Chair Davis.
Yes, that motion passes 8-1. Colleagues, that concludes our work for this month. I want to thank everyone for their work preparing and conducting a successful meeting. We look forward to meeting again on July 6th. I now ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by the treasurer, second by Mr. Hall. And as we adjourn, Ms. White, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Petrie Martin.
Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Mrs. Kamnitz.
Yes.
Mr. Keenan.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. White.
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn.
Yes.
Dr. Ford.
Yes.
Treasurer Falwell.
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Robinson. Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Have a good day.
Do you know if anyone is going to see the student advisory council presentation? Right.